All right, good afternoon. How many are enjoying today so far? All right, over half of you. That's a good start. That's a good start. And today's just, where else do you get to go and hear 20 incredible speakers in one day? Can we put our hands together for RedPropeller and all the team that put this event together? Now, I can tell you one thing, though. It is kind of intimidating when you're thinking you got 20 of the best speakers and you got to get up and talk, in the middle of them, like, I can't do that. What if I did this better? What if I did that? But that's where you just got to be you. And anything in life, you just got to learn to be you. It's like two snakes were slithering down the road. One snake looked at the other snake and said, "Hey, are we poisonous?" Snake said, "That's a weird question. Why would you ask me that?" He said, "Because I just bit my lip." Just got to know who you are. That's all I'm saying. And so, one thing I try to do, as I hear all these speakers, I try to learn something every day. If you want tomorrow to be different than today, how many want the rest of your year to be the best of your year? Yeah. So if tomorrow's going to be different than today, if the rest of this year is going to be different than the first part of this year, I'm going to have to learn something different. If I keep doing the same thing the rest of this year I did the first part of the year, it'll be just like the first part of the year. So I try to learn something. Sometimes it's little things, it's not life-changing things, but if I can learn, I learned the other day, if your airbag deploys in your car, it costs $500 to put your airbag back. I didn't know that till the other day. That's not real deep, life-changing, but it makes you think, because they were explaining to me that passenger side, if the airbag deploys and no one's with you, you still pay $500. So one of the benefits they were telling me of this car is you could turn the passenger side off, right? Then that made me start thinking about the people who were with me. Yeah. It's $500, are they worth it? Anyway, you just think about these things. I had an accident the other day. I called home. I told my wife, I said, "Honey, don't worry, I'm fine. My airbag deployed. Everything, sorry about your mom." No mother-in-law joke? I'm kidding. I love my mother-in-law. She's awesome. A couple of Christmases ago, I got her a cemetery plot for Christmas. Okay. I didn't get her anything last year. She was all mad at me. "You didn't give me anything for Christmas this year." I'm like, "You didn't even use what I got." I'm just saying, when you give someone a gift, you want them to enjoy it. And so, by the way, I got a gift for all of you. I hope you stop back by and pick up a copy of the book. How many have ever made a mistake? Let me see if you ever made a mistake. Oh, I probably should have brought more of these. If you've never made a mistake, you've probably never made anything. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has setbacks. Things don't work out quite the way you thought. The most successful people in the world have the most failures on their belt, on the resume. And I was looking at this quote. There's a quote on the back of the book I love by Evander Holyfield. And I'm mentioning that because I want to read this quote, not because I'm like, hey, I'm trying to drop names. I'm not a name dropper. I'm just trying to tell you what the 5-time heavyweight champion of the world said about my book. Seriously, listen, if anything I've learned from spending time with Oprah, it's that you shouldn't drop names, okay? But he said it's not getting knocked down that makes you lose the fight. It's just not getting back up. We all get knocked down. How do you get back up, get back in the game? That's what this book is all about. So I hope you'll pick it up, learn something from it. You got a copy. Did you get a copy? We'll put one right there. But hopefully you'll learn something from that. Like I said, I try to learn something every day. I did learn earlier that whenever I speak at one of these events, that you all are each required to hire me before the end of the year. I didn't even know. I just found that out in my policy manual. I don't know if you got a copy of it, but it's in there. It's right in the back there. So I hope you picked up a copy. Let me tell you. Let me talk to you about something. I like to just write stuff that kind of helps wherever I'm going. So I find what do you need, and we kind of put something together for that. But I was on the plane the other day, and I was thinking about this book, Another Shot, because everybody gets a second chance. And I thought, well, most everybody gets a second chance. I turned on the movies in the plane, and I was watching that movie, Sully. How many have seen the movie, Sully? Anybody seen the movie? I was watching that movie, and I thought, here's a guy who didn't have another chance. He only got one shot. If you remember the story, and I wrote just a couple notes I wanted to share with you because I thought it was pretty interesting. Because how many have ever had a crisis in your life, in your business, something? We've even heard about some of them today as we've heard other speakers. And so I just wrote down a couple of things I think will help you. Some managing, how to manage through a crisis. Just a few things I think will help you. So if you got your pen, just write these down, because whether you book me, which I know it's in the policies, or not, you're going to want to remember these because they're going to help you. And it's the story, I think it was January 15th, 2009. Captain Sully Sullenberger was flying this aircraft. Remember that U.S. air flight that landed on the Hudson River. There it was. They were flying. Sully Sullenberger, Jeffrey Skiles. This all of a sudden, they made an unpowered emergency landing right in the middle of the Hudson River. After multiple bird strikes hit their engines, they had to make some decisions, decide what to do. At the end of it, all 155 passengers, the whole crew, everybody was fine. Everybody made it through the whole thing. And here all of a sudden, one person I think spent the night in the hospital. Everybody else was fine. How did this happen? How did they do this? And so I remember hearing this story, and I think we all gravitated toward the story because it was good news. I mean, not often do you hear good news on the, it's usually CNN, constant negative news. We're always hearing all the bad things happen. And I think we like this because there were so many good reports of all the good things that happened. And so as I thought about life, sometimes we have those unexpected bird strikes, those things we weren't expecting that just happened. So what did they do, and how do you respond when you have unexpected bird strikes? So let me just give them to you real quick. Number one, take control. Take control. The co-pilot was actually flying the airplane when the birds hit the engine. Captain Sully immediately said, "It's my aircraft," and he took control. If you're a leader in life, in your family, whatever it may be, there's times when you have to say, "Hey, it's my aircraft." And if you're going to lead the thing, you've got to take control. Immediately recognize your priorities as a leader and focus upon analyzing and restabilizing the situation. See, in most crisis, what I find is that more than anything else, what you do right at the beginning is the most important thing. When you have a crisis, what you do right at the beginning is the most important thing. It's like taking responsibility. I wrote another book called The 12 Traits of the Greats, and in that book, the very first chapter is called Responsibility. It's all about responsibility, because until you take responsibility for where you're at, nothing's going to change until you change. And so as a leader, it's your responsibility to take the lead in a time of crisis. Second thing, oh man, that time's going fast. In the words of Kim Kardashian to her first husband, "I won't keep you long." Okay, but I got a couple of things I think will help you. Number two, continually assess the situation. Number two, continually assess the situation. As soon as, and listen, you're like, he doesn't seem like a motivational speaker. I'm not really a motivational speaker. I just get paid to be one. But I really want to be an educational speaker. I hope something I say educates you, helps you learn something, or really a transformational speaker is what I hope some of this information you say, you know what, we could actually use that, and that's going to help us get where we're going. So continually assess the situation. As soon as the bird strike occurred, the engines failed. Captain Sully pushed the nose of the plane down. He began to fly what they called flying dead stick, and he began to go. Now, when he knew that LaGuardia was not an option, he thought about Teterboro. And he said, well, that's going to be a little too far as well. And he made a decision to ditch the plane in the Hudson River. When you're in a crisis, one of the most important things you can know are your options. What are my options? What do I do in this situation? When one avenue closes, you look for another one. Be flexible. You always have to be flexible and examine and discard what doesn't work. He said, look, it's not going to work. Going to Teterboro, not going to work. Going back to LaGuardia, it's not going to work. Here's what we got to do. Number three, seek advice. Seek advice, but you decide. You have to make the decision. Air traffic control on the ground, they advised the crew to turn the plane around, go back to LaGuardia. Captain Sully listened to them. He listened to their advice. He listened to what they had to say. He said, no, we're going to put this thing in the Hudson. In the same manner, an effective leader should always seek wise counsel, your lawyers, your accountants, or whatever it may be, but you can't let them make your decision. You have to learn to make the decisions. And you're the only one who really knows the situation at hand. Only Captain Sully, who was in the plane, really knew the entire situation. And so discussing with mentors, which we all need mentors. Mentors are one of the most important things you can have. I always say there's 3 ways to learn. You can learn from mistakes, which, by the way, is the slowest way to learn. Number 2, you can learn from mentors. That's learning from someone else's mistakes. I'd much rather learn from someone else's mistakes. And people say there's no shortcut to success. Bull, I got mentors that keep me. My goodness, I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? He said, oh, man, I wouldn't do that if I was you. Why not? I think it's a great idea. He said, yeah, so did I. He just saved me 3 months of work, $40,000. Why? Because he'd already done what I was planning to do. The third way to get wisdom is money. You can buy wisdom. That's the quickest way to get it. That's why you go to my house, I've got over 4,000 books. Why? Because the difference between where I am and where I want to be is what I know. How many'd like to be doing better than you're doing right now? Okay, if you're not doing as well as you'd like to be doing, all that means is there's something you don't know. When I heard that, I went from being a know-it-all to being a learn-it-all. Obviously, there were some things I didn't know, so I began to read, I began to study. So you need mentors to help you and people to get advice from, but you have to make the decision. You have to make the decision. Number four, communicate with the people around you. Here's what I think is amazing. In 208 seconds, between when the birds hit the engine and when the plane landed in the river, 208 seconds, Captain Sully had to communicate with his co-pilot. He had to communicate with air traffic control, with the flight crew, and with the passengers on board the ship. Communication was critical. Communication was a critical piece of getting help, analyzing the options, and preparing for the outcome. One of my favorite things to teach on is communication, how to communicate with your team, how to communicate with your staff. When you understand the power of communication, communicating the vision is one of the most incredible things that will bring success. But here as a leader, it's just as important to communicate in a time of crisis as it is to communicate in a time of success. We like to communicate when everything's going good, but what about when it's not? How important is it to communicate? Don't think that you can handle the disaster or the tragedy or whatever it may be all by yourself. Let other people share the load in that. So it's the importance of communication, because how many know one little miscommunication can mess up a lot of stuff? You know, it reminds me of this couple from Minneapolis. They were getting ready to go to vacation down to Florida. They'd planned everything. The night before they were getting ready to leave, the wife's boss calls and says, "Hey, I just got a call. My boss said I have to be at the office in the morning for a meeting." The husband said, "We're going on vacation. What do you mean you got to be at the office?" She said, "I don't know. He said, I'll lose my job if I'm not there." So they discussed it. They communicated. The husband said, "Look, I'll fly down to Florida. It's the first day. I'll rent the car, pick up the keys to the condo, all those things, get it all squared away. You just do your meeting, fly down the next day." So they communicated that's what they decided to do. He flew down, got everything ready. That night he sent his wife an email just to let her know he'd made it, everything was fine. And when he typed her email address, he got one of the letters wrong. Not a big deal, just one letter wrong in the email address. I mean, just a little mistake. How many know a little mistake sometimes can mess up a lot of stuff as well? So, of course, when he sent the email, it went to the wrong person. It went to a lady in New York. She just got home from the funeral home. Her husband had died, and she was looking at her email. All of a sudden, this email popped up, said, "Hello, honey. Just wanted you to know I arrived safely." She passed out. Her son came in and said, "Mom, what's wrong?" He said, she said, "The email. Read the email." He looked at the email. It said, "Hello, honey. Just wanted you to know I arrived safely. Everything's prepared for your arrival tomorrow." And it said, "P.S. It sure is hot down here." Communication is vital. It's important that you communicate clearly. Number 5, let me give you one more. I think I just got one more. 5, estimate your holding power. Estimate your holding power. The reason Captain Sully chose to land in the Hudson, he was a glider pilot, and he knew you could go he was about 3,000 feet in the air. He knew you could go about a mile for every 1,000 feet. And so he knew he only had about 3 miles to go. So he knew he couldn't go here. He knew he couldn't go there. So therefore, when the air traffic control suggested he returned, he knew what he had to do. If you suddenly find yourself where you've lost your holding power, whether it's financially, whether it's personally, whether it's emotionally, whether it's physically, what are you going to do when you lose your power? How much gliding range, I guess you'd say? How much gliding range do you have? Do you have the money put away that if something happened to the business, I've got 6 months worth of income back here. I've got this taken care of here. If something happened to you physically as a speaker, and that's what you do, but you got to think about, what if something happened to me physically and I couldn't go anywhere? What am I going to do? So in whatever area of life, you got to know what your holding power is. Let me just close with this. Katie Couric, Captain Sully was speaking to Katie Couric in an interview, and I love what he said. This is really powerful. He said, one way of looking at this might be that for 42 years, I've been making small, regular deposits in the bank of experience, education, and training. On January 15th, the balance was sufficient so that I could make a very large withdrawal. In life, the education, the learning, the training, what you're receiving is going to be important. One day they're going to say, you know what, I need to pull on that information. For 42 years, He was putting it in, and then you see at the end there, that they're all standing there. What you're learning today, what you're doing today, all that goes, deposits into your life account. And when you need it, you can pull it out and be victorious. So you look at, I remember the shot there of them all standing on the side of the plane. And you think, wow, what an amazing thing to happen, because one man got the education and he needed. That's what I want to help people do. Get the education they need so they can make right decisions to win every time. And that right there will make the rest of your life, I say, the best of your life. Hey, thanks. Bless you guys.